What's going on, gamers? So somebody was telling me Reforge is acting up again. Let's go take a look. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So here's the video here, and you guys know how this stuff is gonna go. It's gonna get interesting. And apparently there's some guy with him. So yeah, the topic here is Game Pass. It's funny, I already did a video on that recently. Didn't have a great cadence until this year. I'm gonna disagree with that, only because I had the Series X day one, and honestly. Like when you had games like Outriders, that was a good game. Just Microsoft had that day one on their system. They provided a lot of good stuff throughout the year. Where I would say, no, it's been good for a while. Yes, now it's better than ever, but I wouldn't just start giving it credit this year. This is where their vision is coming out more for everything they did prior to that. But yeah, other than that, no. Because like I said, I remember those type of moments. I was like, because of Game Pass, you know, this is actually pretty fun. Definitely, if you haven't been there for a while and you're trying to catch up. But yeah, let's see what he has to say, right? And you know what you have to do, guys. Right? Ponies, sit down. Let's get ready.
There is, in this conversation, I think what happens is people sort of pass each other. So as I was talking about, what Xbox did this gen and how little value I felt I got from them, people are like, well, Game Pass's value is insane. Yeah, this year, the value of Game Pass from 2020 to 2024, I would argue is almost non-existent, especially when you look at how Series X was not tapped into. They were shipping games that weren't feature complete. They were delaying games. They were shipping games at 30 FPS. They were shipping games in bad shape. Their cadence was all over the.
What? This is what I mean. It was even cheaper back then too. The deal was actually even better. People were converting gold, getting free games for years. So you had, a nice PC with crazy conversions. I think he forgot about that. There was a lot of good deals where you would feel like you were just playing next gen gaming and you were getting a console for that price. For those times, for an insane deal, what it would cost to build a PC for. So I think that charm actually did pretty well. Microsoft was somewhat selling still too, and then Halo came out with Forza. Game Pass was doing well, and didn't hit the numbers that they wanted, but I mean, it was definitely better than what Sony was offering on their subservice. So, honestly, I was using Game Pass more at the time over PlayStation, just in case people were wondering. So, I don't agree. I don't, guys, yeah, I don't agree with it only getting great cadence until this year. But of course, he's going to say that because that's Reforge Copium. Helldivers is over there, all these other games. I can't give them too much credit now. It's going to be by Sony. It's going to be by Sony only. If you want positivity, it's going to have to be Sony getting them. Right, guys? Mm-hmm.
Plays. Yeah, 2025, 5 years into the gen, yes, the value of Game Pass this year is bonkers crazy. I didn't buy a Series X 5 years ago to wait for 5 years for a monsoon of value on Game Pass.
I can understand that from a first party standpoint for certain games back then, yes, but it was still good for a lot of other games that you could have you had to pay, like I said, like Outriders and stuff that you had to pay for day one. You were able to get that right over there and get that experience. It was nice.
Pass. I bought into something that was promoted as this next gen console that was going to push the graphics and deliver great games, and that I didn't get.
The problem with that is that Microsoft had the full RDNA2 architecture and they had machine learning. They had all that stuff that Sony didn't have. But since Sony had marketing rights and they were still selling more and winning from the PS4 to PS4 Pro era all the way to the PS5, it was similar architecture. They took that shortcut to 1.8 instead of full RDNA 2.0. So it's easy to max out efficiently for the PlayStation. The developers were used to that. They didn't prioritize making it from scrap with the Xbox and having to do the Series S setting. That was a problem back then. It's not anymore. But because of that, PlayStation games were outperforming the Series X. which they shouldn't have, because as I was telling people before, it's not even about thinking about defending Xbox or defending PlayStation or any of that, but it's like if I have two PCs and this PC is 20% more powerful, why is it not showing that? Well, that's a development problem and something going on with that. Some favoritism. Uh, I'm just saying because it's not the hardware. And so something else that that hardware has that that hardware didn't have. But we took a look at all the specs between the two, and like I said, that's just because of market advantage, and profit, and selling more.
That I
Yeah, no,
didn't.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, I didn't. That was part of my criticism with them. You know, 4 or 5 years later, I'm getting at least that. I got rid of my Series X. I don't even have that anymore. If I'm engaged with Xbox now, it's on PC, but but that was part of my frustration. I had a box just sitting there that I wasn't using, and then Game Pass 4 or 5 years later, actually longer than that because Game Pass is older than 4 or 5 years, but finally, at least for me, and if others feel differently, they feel like they got their value. That's fine. I'm not going to argue that. But at least for
Yeah, that's the thing. You remember I told you how many people are really on Game Pass compared to people outside the gaming community? It's not like that's the Netflix of gaming. They wanted it to be, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's not necessarily looked at as negative. I've seen people tell me about that experiences all the time. That's not the problem with this video. The problem with this video is saying Game Pass didn't have a great cadence until this year. They've always supplied you with a lot of good games. So you'd have to pay for throughout those years. Like Stalker, you know what I mean? That's another example where it's like this is not their game, but they're getting you games that you have to pay for day one, third party on their day one. And they did that year on and off a lot while still releasing some first party games on and off, Psychonauts and all those other games, you know what I mean? It wasn't the greatest, of course. Yeah, there were some things that were definitely disappointing. But we got all the way to here now with a turnaround. And then we got third party publishing and we got all that going on. It's not going to happen at the snap of a finger. And like I said before, when Netflix first started, it's not easy to have the best content day one. It's just all blooming, you know what I mean? It may take years to do that. And definitely, if you look at it from a gamer perspective compared to a TV movie show perspective, Game Pass is in a more rougher world where not every gamer looks at gaming like that, and actually, the majority of them don't. So, I think it's still doing good for where it's at, and some people just probably have unrealistic expectations. The gaming industry's not there yet, but if you have a lot of money, why not get ahead?
me, for BRAP as a consumer, I didn't really get that value from Game Pass until this year, and I hope they continue that. I hope they continue that cadence of good releases for me in Game Pass because that's what's going to keep me engaged. I don't believe in maintaining a subscription long term if I'm not using it. So I've
Yeah, of course. And you can cancel at any time knowing that. But the thing is you can let stuff stack up, get in there, get a good month, and get in there and clear a lot of things. Me, I have some stuff kind of stacked up lately because I've been taking some gaming breaks, but I'm gonna get back hardcore on it again. Just taking this channel very serious more. I want to get this going. As you guys know, this is my 18th month. I'm heading towards the 19th month in about less than 2 weeks. Definitely enjoying this, not going anywhere. We're trying to get an Xbox episode of content every day and giving you guys at least 3 episodes every day over here. Not easy to do. Hey man, that's why you gotta support and get it going. We're getting 3 episodes over here a day. I don't make you wait. I'm giving you seasons every month. Yeah, AGN's giving you all these seasons. Let's continue.
often looked at Game Pass on quarterly releases, and that's kind of how I evaluate whether or not I'm going to stick with the with the subscription service or unsubscribe and then come back when games release into that service that I want to play.
Well, and yeah, there were games in 2024 that hit Game Pass, Paul, that were good, and a ton of those games I could get elsewhere. So none of that was like an exclusive value. So what you're arguing then is frugality. Well, Game Pass allows me to save money.
You know what Reforge is doing again? Well, I can afford it. I don't care. Yeah, he's basically saying that.
I don't think frugality is the highest virtue of the consumer. I think consumers extracting the most value for themselves out of the market, that is what you're supposed to do. I don't feel
Well, duh, obviously Reforge, but there's times that what you say extracting the most out of the market could be I just spent $10 and I just extracted 5 clears that would have probably cost me what, $300-400? that is a full extraction if you wait for the right stuff that you care about and with timing. Whereas trying to get that all independently, I don't know, man. It just depends on what people value to a sense of, you have to say, I don't know, I'm gonna have to say subjectivity because yeah, you just really never know, depending on what they're gonna bring in front of you as well. So there's always opportunities on Game Pass for extraction, like he's saying, but I get what he's trying to say in an other fashion too. But I always like to show the other side of the coin too, if you get what I mean. And we face the truth over here. And everybody that follows me does that and knows that. And that's what I love about making this channel too, seeing people support that, and it's great. And I appreciate that. Love you guys.
Feel like saving money is my highest virtue as the consumer. If that's your highest virtue, great. You guys can save money.
See, he's doing it again, forgetting about the human conditions and being a corporate. I'm not gonna say. Well, he's just being a bootlicker, yeah. Because it's like, dude, he has it to where he's at in his position with his memberships and all that, and things are looking fine. But the problem with the problem Reforge is that you still have to have the point of view of the common people, not just your point of view. But you're just fine. Because you have to look at the whole thing more. That's why people like Game Pass, because like I said, life benefits and struggles in the real world.
Buy less games and use Game Pass. That's fantastic. I feel like I extracted way more value out of the market buying games on my PlayStation, buying a PS5 Pro. That's unique to me. I'm not you. I don't think frugality is like the be-all, end-all here. Well, if you're saving money and games are everywhere and you don't have to buy multiple consoles, that's it. That's the way to be a consumer. I'm like, that's not how I'm a consumer in a hobby. I don't treat it that way.
No, and that's a great point. I mean, every consumer has different wants, different needs, and so for this individual, like frugality or having access, low cost of entry, is something they prioritize. But not everyone prioritizes that. They just don't. I mean, people.
Yeah, no, nobody said that everybody does. No, I was telling people before about balance. It's just more like it isn't just a one-way direction to look at it. Definitely when you have that many pool of people that are interested in that, it does become subjective to a lot of aspects, and not an objective truth, as he's probably trying to make it seem like it's that way. But it's like it's not really the case. But can a majority feel a certain way, like people in the PlayStation world or people outside of that? Yeah, that's true, but that doesn't mean they still can't be subjective for other people. It's not necessarily have to be true for them because they don't like Game Pass. A lot of people are benefiting it just fine. There's people that are not, that are just fine. And like I said, but that's not really so much the point. It was more about saying, the cadence until this year. It's like, that's not necessarily true. It's better than it's ever been, yes, because it's in full fruition, but it was always growing better and better. And you were just getting everything day one. So that's the way I've always thought about it. It was just a great beneficial service for people.
Prioritize things differently.
Right. And if that to you is the highest virtue or value as the consumer, man, more power to you. But I don't feel like it's resulted in it's definitely not resulted in consistent quality. And I think that's the concern going forward. This was something.
Well, that's because the world that he wants to live in, he thinks of it like exclusives, only buying those type of games, and I don't need to do that. I can just pay the money for it, get the memberships, you know what I mean, and then have it for the PlayStation 5 Pro. And there's nothing wrong with having that mentality if you want to choose that, but you can't project it as if like somebody wanted to do something different. You're never going to agree with that, and it just can't be that way. And I Reforge it because he doesn't agree with that, and that's his free will choice.
That it wasn't Ecstasis, it was the other leaker. It wasn't Ecstasis or Kepler, I forget, it was the other guy. It was Sneaker SO said that the cadence is inevitably going to slow down because Microsoft's going to continue to cancel projects and close studios because their operational costs are seemingly just way too high. So sure, if they go out and broker great deals like Expedition 33 or Silksong hitting Game Pass, that's great for you. But I can still get those games, play those games, and enjoy those games. At that point, the only difference between me and you is I paid money for the game and you got it on a sub-service. I'm looking beyond that. I'm looking at Yote, Death Stranding 2. I'm looking at Galactic. I'm looking at Sorrows. I'm looking at games that I know are coming from a company that has invested in this idea of we need high value first party exclusives or second party exclusives
and not canceled ones
or third party. We need those high value exclusives because that adds value to what we offer.
We need them to be good. We don't need them to chase modern trends.
It's not just about saving money. I know people didn't like Jim Ryan, but when he talked about that virtuous cycle and why they don't put their big huge titles on PS Plus day and date, you know, Strauss Zelnick said the same thing. Bobby Kotick said the same thing. I know in many people's minds.
Yeah, we've been over that, but that's not the point. So Microsoft has a lot of money and they can do that. But anyways, this pretty much covers this, doesn't it? Yeah, so at the end of the day, we pretty much figure out it's just more pony nonsense. Because we're still playing this Game Pass type of game thing, right? Though this has pretty much been covered, but I guess not. So let me know what you guys think about this, all right? Peace out. Have a great day. Ponies, sit down.